Hey there viewers, thank you for tuning into Supermariodiagnostics once again. Today we are going to do a power supply shootout. We have three contenders. The Topdon Tornado 90,000. It has quickly become my go-to. The other one is a shop-owned PowerMax. This is a bare bones model. There are other models that have voltage readouts and other options, but this one is a bare bones. It's 120 amp stable. And finally, the Schumacher INC100 is a 70 amp stable with a 100 amp Mac power supply. The Tornado 90,000 is a 90 amp stable, and I mean 90 amp stable. I put this thing over an hour at 90 amps during a very heavy current draw on a vehicle with a glow plug module running at all times. All the glow plugs were on at the same time. This thing held up no problem. And the PowerMax is 120 amp stable. It is a must for BMW programming. The Schumacher is a 70 amp stable power supply. I loved it so much that I bought two of them. I have one on my cart and I also have one on my bench here. It is a 70 amp stable power supply, but it also has a momentary maximum current capability of 100 amps. I've seen it in action. I've seen it pull a maximum of 106 amps, and it claims to do it for 3 minutes. Out of the three, only the Topdon has charging capability as well as power supply capability. We press any button once to turn on the screen, and we could go through each mode. You can repair a battery for normal lead acid batteries, AGM, cold temperature, and a boost for a quick charge as well. You can set the power supply to either do 24 volts up to 45 amps or 12 volts up to 90 amps. Once you set the power supply unit, you can set the maximum amperage that you'd like. Surprisingly, the plus sign is on the left side and the minus side is on the right. It's not a big deal at all. I actually don't care for it, but it's kind of funny when you think about it. Once you set that up, you can set the maximum amperage, and the maximum is 90 amps. You'll hit about 91 point something if you hit the absolute max, and it will not go 1 amp higher than that. But you can set this at 5 amp increments down to 5 amps. So this is very useful for like bench setups. I've had a car where I would set it at 50 amps max just to not overdo anything in certain situations. It worked out pretty well. One of the other features that it has is that it has a temperature probe, which is optional. This optional feature allows us to monitor the temperature of the battery in order to prevent overheating. And I say that it's optional because you can leave it disconnected in a programming event. It's not something that I am just going to leave up to this sensor. You can just lay it down on the battery. It will keep monitoring the temperature of the battery. Some of these cars come in real hot and quickly need to be programmed. I will not use this during a programming event. I will use it during a charging event. That is fine with me. As mentioned earlier, the Topdon will be able to do 24 volts, but these will only be able to do 12 volts. No more, no less. As for the displays, this particular PowerMax is bare bones, as mentioned before, and will not show a voltage reading. You will have to use either the scan tool or a voltmeter in order to confirm voltage. The Schumacher, however, will have a readout of both voltage and amperage. And in this case, we are charging a vehicle that's already fully charged. We have a confirmation of a charged battery as well. And it is a good indicator as to whether we have a good connection to the vehicle. If I was to turn on my vehicle, we would be able to see that there is a good connection. As you can see, we are only pulling about 3.5 amps on this vehicle with the key on. It is not a hungry vehicle, but regardless, we can confirm a good connection with the amperage readout. That is something that we cannot do with the PowerMax as it stands. Even with the fully decked out one, I believe it doesn't have a current reading, which to me is crucial to confirm a good connection. Now for the Topdon, we do have a full readout. We have voltage, amperage, the duration, charging duration, and the battery capacity all at one glance with a backlit display at the press of a button. You press any button once to turn on the backlit display, and then whatever button that you want after that, once the backlight display is already on, in order to complete the function of the button that you're pressing. So if I wanted to start this, I could start it once that backlit display is on. If it was off, I would press it twice. Which brings me to my next point. The Topdon allows its operation to start even with no voltage present beforehand. So that is not something that I can say for the Schumacher. The Schumacher has to have some kind of voltage present, or else it will not turn on. And to illustrate, I am going to stop this, turns off, and we got those fans kicking in high gear right now. And I'm going to remove this Anderson clip, and we now have 0 volts, and it will not turn on no matter what you're doing. It just will not turn on. So you do have to have some kind of voltage present. Now, of course, you may wonder, why would I need that? I mean, why would we maintain a dead battery? Well, I mean, in a bench setting, that would be pretty useful. And the PowerMax will allow us to charge. I know that we're not seeing a lot of action with this. It is a simple unit. We could hook it up, but all you're going to really see is a confirmation of the master switch being on. We will not see voltage readouts or current readouts. We would just have to do it ourselves. We know that service is everything nowadays, and you're probably wondering what's the warranty on these items. So the first one that I ever owned was this one. This was my go-to every single day. I love this thing, using it day in, day out, until the fans stopped working, it overheated, and it would shut down in thermal protection mode. And I already had run out of the warranty. It is a 1-year warranty. I had to find the MOSFET that was responsible for the fan operation, and found out that it was burnt out. Replaced it myself because I've heard nefarious things about customer service, and decided to buy a second one just in case I was out on the first one ever again. The PowerMax, however, comes with a 2-year warranty on the unit and a 1-year warranty on the cables. And I hear great things about them. I haven't personally needed to use their warranty services myself. So that's as much as I could say about the PowerMax. As for the Topdon, Topdon comes with the best warranty of all of them. The entire unit plus the cables are covered under a 3-year warranty. And I've had used Topdon's customer service for other items, for other products, and they seem to be pretty top notch. You guys are probably wondering how the cables compare. The thinnest ones are for sure the Schumacher unit. The Schumacher unit can fit in places where others cannot. And to compare, we've got them next to each other. We have a curved profile on the Schumacher, which is really nice. It's the only one out of these 3 that come like this from the manufacturer, and it has a pretty decent jaw opening. The Topdon does open a little more than the Schumacher. It is a straight profile. There's no curvature to it. Very strong springs on both of these, but this one is a slightly smaller total size. As for the jaw thickness, you can see that the Schumacher is still a little bit thinner and will fit into places where the natural Topdons will not. It's not a huge thing. There are ways around that, but there are some situations in which this one, the Schumacher, will get into places where the Topdon cannot. The mammoth of them all is the PowerMax. Look at the size of these things. I mean, if you're going to be 120 amp stable, I guess you have to have pretty big jaws. And as for the jaw opening, I mean, my goodness, this is like the best in the industry jaw opening. You're not going to get anything bigger than that, as far as I know. And for comparison, I mean, goodness. Now, as for the thickness, it's much bigger than the Topdon ones. I'm not sure I'm doing it justice. It's kind of hard to make sure that you guys are seeing all of this. You will have issues fitting this into certain places, but my brother loves this unit, and he picks it over to Schumacher. Believe it or not, he loves this thing. He uses this every single day. Just about every single car that we pull in, we put maintainers on them. The last thing we want is battery issues or codes, low voltage codes, unnecessary headaches just because of voltage. So what we do is stick to that. We will put a maintainer on just about anything that comes in through the door. Moving on to the switches, the Topdon has a master switch and a start-stop switch, which is really nice. It's something that I personally like a lot, simply because look at how automatically it shuts down on its own. This thing always has a graceful shutdown. It will not just abruptly shut off. It has a capacitor in there in order to have this happen this way. It'll takes care of itself. Something I really like about it. Now, I have tested it, and during a supply event, I didn't try this during programming, but in one of the cases where I just had a vehicle here with the lights on, I went ahead and unplugged the unit and quickly plugged it back in just to see if somehow it would keep supplying the vehicle with voltage, and it did not. But I wasn't expecting it to. I mean, if you're pushing 50 amps through this thing and you unplug it real quick, or if you have somebody who tripped over the wire and unplugged it for you and you quickly put it back in, I wasn't expecting this thing to just hold on for dear life. But it is a nice feature for them to take care of their own units. That's probably one of the reasons why they have a 3-year warranty as well. One of the other features that I like about this, having a master switch and a start-stop switch, is that, well, with the Schumacher, I would have to unplug the thing. I have the fan running at all times. I already told you the story about the fan. I would have to unplug it each and every single time. And is it a big deal? It's not. But a master switch would be nice on this, so that I don't have to unplug it, plug it, unplug it, and plug it each and every single time I am heading home for the day. And if I leave it on overnight, that fan is running on like every 3 to 5 minutes. I didn't really check, but it is running continuously and overworking the MOSFET, which I ended up having to replace, as mentioned before. The PowerMax, though, does come with a master switch, but only a master switch. So it is nice. Don't get me wrong, it is nice. That's nice to have. But if I ever want to use it, that's all you're going to get. All you get is a red light on to confirm its operation. It is as simple as it gets. It is by far the best bang for the buck. One of the things I don't like about the Topdon are the cables. It is the shortest ones out of all of them. These cables are they are high quality, but they are only 7.5 feet long. They are not quickly releasable. So if I have a vehicle in which I am leaving overnight and I want to disconnect it, and it's a huge pain to get to the battery, and I'm fumbling with it, and I'm putting it on a lift overnight and another car underneath it, with the Schumacher, I could simply disconnect the Anderson clips, leave the cables in the vehicle, in the trunk, or wherever the battery is, and put the vehicle up on the lift overnight for the rest until the next day. So it is a nice convenience. Same thing with the PowerMax. They are no clips on them. They are bolted down, and yeah, I mean, you don't really have a choice. It is light enough, though. It is the lightest of all the units. It is light enough that you could just disconnect it real quick, pop it into the trunk, and you're good to go. The Topdon, it is a beast, though. It is 20 pounds. It doesn't weigh much. It is very comparable to the Schumacher, but sure, it would be nice to have some clips that I could just pop off and leave the vehicle on a lift overnight. Not a huge deal, though, but just something worth mentioning. Now, as for mounting options, the Schumacher comes with some brackets that I could slide into the back, and put it onto a lift, a cart, or whatever your imagination leads you to. As for the PowerMax, you also have rubber feet that double as, well, you can remove the rubber feet and put them on a lift or a cart or what have you, bolted down somewhere permanently if that's your thing. My brother uses this every day. He likes it as is with the rubber feet, and he does not have it mounted to a lift. But I do know plenty of shops that will mount it to a lift and not have any problems doing so, and just have other units if they want to go mobile with it. As for the Schumacher, I have my second one on my cart. There are times where I am going to grab that cart and put a laptop on it along with an interface and go to a vehicle. This is usually how I have the shop. We have several cars here. They're not all within my bench setup, you know, right next to the car that I'm working on. And sometimes they are back there somewhere. And I'm going to want to grab that cart, and thanks to the mounting options of the Schumacher unit, I was able to weld those mounting brackets onto the cart and permanently affix the Schumacher onto that cart. Now, of course, I could still unbolt the brackets from the Schumacher unit and still remove that unit if I need to in the future. As for the Topdon, we have rubber feet down in the bottom and in the back. We have some rubber feet right here, right? I love to lay this thing down. I think it makes it more stable. And we also have some rubber feet on the bottom, but there are 0 mounting options, and I can think of a few people who would 3D print something for this, but as of yet, I think somebody could literally 3D print a very sturdy kind of holder where it would have a plate, like an L plate, where we could mount it wherever we want. It would have to be very stout though, because this thing is 20 pounds. So I'm pretty sure someone out there who's watching can come up with that and have a very good time making a profit on it. But I like to have it laying down like this. In many cases, it makes it very sturdy. It ain't going anywhere. Usually this one stays on my bench right here, and I have my vehicle right next to me, in which I could just reach out with the cables, as I usually do with the Schumacher. I just grab the cables and put it onto the vehicle. So as of now, the Schumacher has taken a back seat, and the Topdon has become that bench unit for me. It is the everyday power supply at this point for me. You guys are probably wondering about the signals, like how clean are these power supplies? They are all very comparable. For what it's worth, the PowerMax has by far the cleanest signal. Is it a huge difference? No, it's not. The PowerMax has the cleanest signal. Next is the Topdon. The Topdon has the second cleanest signal going to these vehicles. And third is the Schumacher, surprisingly for me. You can imagine my surprise when I did these tests. And if I get my amp clamps back from repair, I will show them on the screen. The Schumacher definitely is the noisiest out of all three. The Topdon has a dual fan setup. It has 2 filters, one on each side. They are mesh filters. They're not cloth or anything like that. They are wire filters for very big items that may get in there and ruin your circuitry. PowerMax has a single fan setup, and although it's outside, it looks like as if you were able to just service this yourself, right? But it's bolted in from the inside, so you still have to take everything apart in order to replace that fan. And as you can see here, it is prone to breakage because, well, it's on the outside, and we work in a harsh environment and you will bump into stuff. So there are times where this little piece here starts touching the fan and it makes a nice real nice noise for you. But yeah, it is prone to breakage, and you still have to take it all apart in order to service the fan itself. It's a single fan. I'm sure that's all it needs. For 120 amps, that's a pretty good cooling system right there. As for the Schumacher, it is also a dual fan setup, and you will have to open it up completely in order to service them as well. Well, maybe not completely. Maybe I believe this shield comes out by itself, but either way, to disconnect them, you do have to kind of get in there. If you have the way to do it, you may be able to do it yourself. Been there, done that. Not a huge deal. As for the Topdon, the fans only come on very rarely, to be honest with you. One of the things you'll notice about this unit is that when you turn off the switch, the amperage goes right down, but it stays on. This is a master switch. There's still, the circuit is still alive here, but when you turn it back on, it goes right back to where it was. It kind of like saves the memory as to what you were doing, which is a nice feature, but is not meant to protect your programming event from accidental disconnections of power. So to illustrate as well, I will leave the master switch on, but I will also momentarily disconnect the power cable. And it does jump down to 0, but it remembers what you were doing and brings it right back as soon as possible, as soon as the power is available. Sure is a nice feature, and it's something that can't be said about any of these except for the PowerMax, since the PowerMax only functions with a master switch. So with the Schumacher, I turned it on. I'm confirming my connection is good by monitoring the amperage, and I'm going to briefly disconnect it in order to see whether it will pick up where it left off, or will I have to start the unit over again. And I have to start the unit again. So press start. Not a huge deal, but it sure is nice to know. Now, one of my favorite features about the Topdon is that it will not stop charging once you crank the vehicle over. On the Schumacher, I cannot say the same thing. For some reason, once you crank it, you have to physically come back, stop it, and restart the maintainer in order to continue charging. And it doesn't happen every single time. It happens randomly. You never know when it's going to happen. But how many times are you going to have a power supply on and you just want to crank the vehicle? Maybe you want to check for codes or what have you, and you have to go turn off the vehicle, do a key on and engine off, and you find that you don't have the voltage that is being displayed like so. Like it would show 13.4 volts there, but on my scan tool it would show 12 volts. So one of the things to watch out for with the Schumacher is that in some cases you will have the unit stop charging. Even though the readout says 13.4, the unit will stop charging, and you won't know that until you look at your scan tool, or if you're monitoring the voltage or the current of your battery. The Topdon will keep charging even throughout it all, and will also maintain, like during a charging event, it will also maintain the battery until it reaches a certain threshold, and it will begin charging once again. So even the charger unit itself is a smart charger and will stop charging. It will turn into basically a maintainer all on its own during a charging event. Once it's fully charged, it maintains it. Once the voltage drops below a certain threshold, it will begin charging once again if you have not stopped the unit from its charging event. One of the things that the Topdon doesn't do, though, is it is not set up for lithium batteries. Actually, the Schumacher isn't for lithium batteries either. Only the PowerMax is rated for lithium batteries from the manufacturer. All of the 3 units have the industry standard reverse polarity, short circuit and overcharging protections, and also the unit overheating protections as well. In the case of the Topdon, I've never gotten it to overheat, as well as the PowerMax, but the Schumacher will completely shut down on its own if it does come to an overheat. You will smell something if it comes to that, believe me. Out of these 3 units, only the Topdon has an upgradable unit. So we are at version 2.2 at this moment. I don't know what they'll have in store for us in the future. It would be interesting to see where they go from here. I love to see the competition between companies when they are making a product. Same thing goes for scanners. I love it when they are just trying to outdo the other, and we are the ones to benefit from them doing so. Well, that's it for the Shootout. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm sure I missed something. Let me know in the comments what you think. Which one did you go with? Which one do you have experience with? If there's any other units or tools that you'd like to see compared, be sure to leave it in the comment section. And finally, to close off this video, I would like to say that if you are looking for the best bang for the buck, longest cables, biggest jaws out there, the lightest possible unit you can find with a 2-year warranty and an incredible reputation, grab that PowerMax, and maybe grab it with all of the extra features, all the bells and whistles that weren't mentioned in this video. If you are looking for the most feature-rich power supply along with a charging unit, a smart charging unit with the shortest cables but smallest cable footprint, so to speak, jaw footprint, and an outstanding 3-year warranty and a 90 amp stable, I say grab the Topdon. You will not go wrong with that. If you want the notorious customer service of Schumacher, but great jaws, I mean, like, they will fit into anything. There's hardly anything that they will not be able to grab. And with a 10-foot long cable and mounting options and a very small footprint, grab the Schumacher. That fan just does not stop going. I hope you all found this video useful. If you like what you see, hit like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and until next time.